No music. I'm on the road. I got nothing to do. Peggy, why don't you hum a few bars, sing a little something, and get us rolling?
Nope.
1 and a 2, 1, hit it.
Nope, not going to do it because I would personally change the migration pattern of peace. Oh, no.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to the BAC Story. I am on the road. I'm actually in California. I had my 40th high school reunion. I might have been the only one not drinking at that earlier this summer. And then about 35 of us are all getting together to go to the San Francisco Giants game on Saturday. So a bunch of people that I'll be calling hey, dude, what's going on, man? Good to see you. What's up? A lot of that trying to remember, and that thing of, I swear I've never met you before in my life, but that'll be fun. But I think, it's went to an all boys Catholic school, and alcohol and, it seemed to go hand in hand. So looking forward to it, though. It's going to be a fun time. But anyways, say something, Peggy. Can't you smile or?
I'm happy. Yeah. I mean, my husband's up at the cabin. I have a night to myself. Did some damage with a credit card today at Lululemon. I've never paid that much money for a pair of yoga pants in my life.
They only go up to, in the men's, a 40 waist, and or a 38. I think, no, they only go up to a 38. So I'm like teetering. I could use like an extra size. So I'm depending upon what I've had to eat that day.
Now I have that vision in my head and I'll never get it out.
Welcome our guest, who I'm thrilled to see. Big time. Todd Kinney is with us from with the state of corn, correct?
Correct.
Iowa.
Nebraska.
And, Todd has been with us a couple of times, and we go back and forth. He was kicked out of an Iowa Hawkeyes game for running naked down the center of the field at halftime, which is not a true story, but I built up a very boring story into something that sells ratings like huge. So you got a big shoes to fill. But anyways, Todd is writing a book, and Todd is our resident lawyer, which is amazing.
It's something.
We're still. I wrote in the thing. I said there was rumors that the book called Above the Bar, which I think is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be called yet, but I have played around with that sort of theme, but I don't know yet. I have gone back and forth on about 5 different titles that I loved and then decided they were terrible.
Well, Above the Bar, obviously you got the legal bar and you got the bar. Two things you kind of conquered, which I think is a fantastic.
I did.
I had Todd. I passed engineering. I did get an engineering degree. Were you drinking pretty heavily during college when you were getting that degree, your law degree?
Yeah. I mean, I was drinking enough, that's for sure. I was probably fairly typical for the law students I was with. But one of the revelations I had that I've kind of realized since I started writing this book, because I've never went back and kind of deconstructed my whole drinking career like I have with this book. And one of the things I realized was, at some level, I knew I had some issue with alcohol when I graduated college. I certainly didn't think it was that serious. I just knew that I drank too much sometimes.
Something you could overcome down the road.
Right. And in the college environment, it doesn't seem all that, it doesn't stick out very much.
No,
because there's drinking everywhere. And if you need to find someone who you think drinks more than you do, all you got to do is look to your right or your left. Mm-hmm. And you can start to make yourself feel better. So I wasn't examining it, but somewhere in my head, I knew there was, I knew something was going on. And I thought when I was going to law, I went straight from college to law school. And I thought, okay, law school is a little more serious. It's graduate school. It's people are you're one step closer to kind of the real world and your career. People are going to be taking it more seriously. And I thought, all right, I'll buckle down. The drinking won't be as big of a part of my experience as it was in college. And like the first night we were there, the Student Bar Association sponsored a open bar that everyone was at. Everyone was getting hammered, including professors. And I thought, oh my God, this is no different from college. And in fact, it's actually kind of sanctioned. You know, it's in college, even though everyone's doing it, there's still this shadow of the university saying, you know, binge drinking is bad and you shouldn't do it. In law school, there was no shadow. It was kind of like, this is what we do. This is what we do.
It's so interesting because I have I've talked to people that are in the financial world, and it's almost, if you're going to be a broker or whatever, it's the deals are made at the bars afterwards. It's this is what you need to do. There's no other, you know, it's like you're talking about your legal friends. If you said, hey, let's go sniff some glue tonight, no one would think that was a good idea.
No,
because it's alcohol. You know, society says, no, that's what you're supposed to do, Todd. You're supposed to, you know, one is killing brain cells and the other one is killing brain cells, you know, either way, but one is glorified.
But one is not questioned and glorified. Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to my dad recently. He's a lawyer also. He's nearing retirement, but he was telling me when he was a young associate at his firm, Monday through Thursday night, there was a core group of lawyers at his firm, most of the lawyers, that would go to the bar every single night after work. Like some people had families, some didn't. It didn't matter. Everybody went to the bar. That was just what you did. And I mean,
the belief was that you probably everyone benefited from it. They were relaxed. They talked about maybe, you know, learn from each other about whatever topics they are. It was not only it was a benefit. It wasn't just a reward. It was a benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had a bar, you know, 2 blocks from the law school that we went to a lot of nights after studying at the library. And it was it's what I looked forward to all day. And it was what got me through the final, you know, 2 hours of studying that night.
The reward.
The
reward for the heart. And that's, Peggy, I know you're ready to jump in, but there's the big question, because in life, you know, whether I was with sports, at the end of it, I played hard. I worked hard. I deserve this. It's a reward. If I work hard all day, if I am in the yard working all day and painting, it's a reward. It's something I've earned. I'm due this. And my own experience, I beat that into my head just by, that's what I did. But society, every commercial that's out there, every show, you know, that's what you're supposed to do. And you've earned it. You're not doing a bad thing. You're doing yourself a favor.
Yeah. And at that point in my life, you know, I liked it. It felt adult. It felt like I was it was ushering me into this new phase of my life. It felt professional. It felt important. It felt like just totally natural with my progression. And I mean, never questioned whether it was good or whether I should examine it. And the other thing about, I think, law school in particular for me and my drinking was, I think that was the start of using it to regulate stress. Because, you know, college was stressful at times, but law school was a different type of, law school was more of a constant, especially first year, drumbeat of anxiety and stress. It just never seemed to let up for that first year because you're so unsure of what you're doing, and it's competitive, and you're trying to figure, you're learning in a way that is totally new to you. It was totally different from how you learned in college. And so there's a lot of insecurity and uncertainty. And looking back, that was when I really started to kind of use it as a regulator. and as a stress reliever.
Did you ever
Which-
seek advice from your dad? Did you ever like share, like to say, Dad, what was it like for you as a freshman and your first year law student?
Not a lot. I probably should have. I mean, I would hear stories from him. I think I was convinced. Oh well, that was it was different back then. It's different now. But no, not probably as much as I should have. Although I heard some stories about his law school experience, and I knew a little bit about that. But and I always knew that I could talk to him about this class or that class or this issue, and he would get it, and that was helpful.
Yeah.
But that was about it.
Yeah, I'm picturing Mad Men, kind of the same, the same thing. Yeah, and again, what Jeff said, maybe not sniffing glue, but the thing is that, I was watching a documentary on San Francisco's lovely homeless problem, and we're encouraged to stop at the bar afterwards and drink till we're crazy, and then condemning people on the street that are shooting up, kind of.
Yeah.
Once you're sober, you really see the hypocrisy in that.
Not a lot of difference between the person on the street corner and the person in their $1 million house, is there? Yeah.
So Todd, I want to hear about the book, but let me go back to what I was just saying about the you deserve it. So how do you don't reward yourself without alcohol anymore? How do you reward yourself? Because we still deserve it. We work our butts off. I know what all three of us do.
Todd does.
Yeah, I do deserve something.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I think it's changed since I stopped. For a while it was you hear this a lot. I ate a lot of sugar, but I would use dessert and sweets and Starbucks as sort of a mini reward. I drank. I still do drink NA beers. That I would use that as sort of a, I guess, reward without the downside. And I still like drinking those. But I think now I've gotten to the point where, my reward is sitting at home on a Friday night and being in bed, if I can be, at like 10 o'clock. And getting a good night's sleep. Like, I love that. And whereas before I would have been like, that sounds like the worst Friday night in the history of humankind. Yeah.
But we're conditioned to think, at least I was conditioned to think, that a reward had to be something above and beyond. It had to be, something special or different, not just normal living. It's like just being plateau at home with family or whatever. Well, that happens all the time. That's normal. That's nothing a reward of that. Now I see that time, to have that time with them, totally is a reward, because I was missing it. But right. I was trained to believe, or it was ingrained in me, that when you work hard, you deserve above.
Yeah.
You deserve you don't deserve potatoes. You deserve cake with icing and caramel drizzle, whatever. You deserve more. So I didn't think the stuff that I now realize is my reward, and I'm freaking thrilled to have it. I saw as like,
yeah, it was boring. It was not sufficient. And I don't know if you guys would describe it this way, but I almost feel like you go through a reset of sorts after you separate from alcohol for a certain amount of time, and your I don't know, your bar of things that bring you enjoyment comes down, and you start to get enjoyment, like real, like genuine enjoyment, like enjoyment that fills you up and can sustain you from really simple things that if you would have told me, I get sunrises. If you would have told me 4 years ago that like sunrises could make me as happy as they do now, I would have looked at you like you had 3 heads.
But I thought of sunrises. I associated sunrises with, it was a time when I was going through a semi withdrawal without alcohol. So it was sunrises meant what I didn't look at sunrises as the beauty of the sunrise or spending time with it. I associated sunrise with, I'm going to be down. I'm going to be anxious. I'm going to feel uneasy because I don't have a buzz. So I associated sunrises suck because I was living without alcohol. I was on the negative side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to come back to normal to realize that the sunrises actually were a plus.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you go through kind of a reset where
Oh, for sure.
Don't you think?
I mean, honestly, I do write about it in my book. It's like, at first sobriety was boring.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't. And then it really wasn't. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you focused on, when you said it was boring, because what was it? It's whatever it is without alcohol.
You can't imagine. I could never 4 years ago have somebody tell me, you are going to be a very content, peaceful person. In 4 years from now, you're going to write a book and you're going to be on this weird show with Jeff from Back to Zero. Like, I would have said, you're full of shit, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine my life being without alcohol. I couldn't imagine it. I mean, I felt like if I didn't do alcohol right, there was something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had to conquer it. It was just me not being able to drink it right.
Yeah, I saw whatever the event was, we're going to go to a game without alcohol. You're going to go to a game without alcohol. All I focused on was the without alcohol part. So it didn't matter what the first half of the sentence was. You know, I could go to whatever without alcohol. All I focused on was the without alcohol, and I gave it thumbs down right off the bat. So I looked at everything as a negative.
Yes. Yeah.
And then I took the without alcohol part out of the phrase or out of the equation. I just said, you're going to go to the game this weekend. Oh, the game, that sounds like fun. Todd's going to be there. Well, there's going to be blah, 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 blah. Now I'm focusing on that because I'm no longer focusing on what I did at first was the half of the equation without alcohol. And that's the reset.
I easily missed every 49er game because I volunteered to go get the beer, stand in the beer line.
Yeah.
Every game.
With about $483.
Yeah, and it seems so natural when you're in the middle of it. And I went to a U.S. women's soccer game with my daughter recently, and you know, those events used to be either me standing in line or being paranoid that, you know, I've had too many beers for being with my daughter on a daddy-daughter outing. And then those thoughts preoccupying me. And then the thoughts of, you know, you better slow down. And then the thoughts the next day of, you know, why did you have that last beer? Did you really need that? Did you ruin the day? I mean, the freedom from that and the experience that you have with all of that removed is so much better. It's just no contest. I tell a couple stories in my book, like kind of from early on.
Can you tell us one?
Yeah. There's one about, it was another soccer game with my daughter in Houston. And I was pretty early on. I was like 4 months in. I don't even remember if I had made the decision that I was done for good, but I was like 4 months in. And so we went to one of those places that has like bowling and pool and laser tag and ping pong and stuff like that before the game. And I just noticed not drinking was on my mind. It wasn't on my mind in terms of like, oh my God, I really want to drink. I really want to drink. But it was on my mind in the fact that I was going to something that always would have been accompanied by alcohol.
Right.
And I knew it wasn't going to be. So that was weird. But I just noticed a different level of awareness of how much fun my daughter was having.
Mhm.
And I was just watching it, and I could soak it in without the intrusion of alcohol. And that was the one thing from that day. And the other thing from that day was, after the game, we got back to the hotel, and we were laying in bed, and she kind of snuggled up to me.
Oh.
And this was, my boys were old enough at this point, they didn't do that anymore. And I love doing that with all my kids, but we had a really good conversation. I just remember thinking, like, I don't ever want to forget what this feels like. And the next day I was just contrasting those two things with how the day would have unfolded had I been
Mhm.
and how all of that would have been different. And yeah, she would have still enjoyed herself. I would have still enjoyed myself, but it would have been a completely different experience. And I thought it's almost impossible to go back to drinking after you've had that experience and you stack it up against what the drinking experience would have been. Like, for me, I'm like, how do you choose drinking over that experience with one of your kids? It's just,
even when you get older, you guys, well, Jeff is older, but having grandchildren, last night we went out to dinner for my daughter's birthday, and Sawyer, the younger twin, you know, she's in a rite of passage now. She can blow bubbles with bubble gum, you know, and her brother can't. Her twin brother.
oh,
can't.
well, that's a big deal.
That's a big deal, and I mean giant bubbles, right? And you know, she just did it over and over and over and over again. You know, I was, you know, pulling her hair back, so I was waiting for one to just pop all over her hair. And then you know, and then she gets, it's that, what you said with your daughter, she gets close to me, she snuggles, and
Yeah.
and she's a tough one. She's not a normal snuggler. You have to usually, you know, pay her $100 to get a hug. She's very self-assured. But at the end of the night, she said, "Hey, Grandma, can I just go home with you tonight?" I mean, those are the words that every grandparent and parent want to hear. I mean, she could have given me, I could have won the lottery. And that's what I didn't have before, because they weren't sure about me before.
Yeah.
There was this thing between us where I might not have watched her blow bubbles 50 times during dinner, right? Because I would have been thinking about, oh God, I only have like 2 sips of wine left in my wine glass, and you know, how am I going to go over there and get that? And you know, Lindsay was watching me because she knows I've been drinking too much and all that. So it's this, what you said before, it's this incredible freedom.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible.
Hey, someone asked, how long did it take for you guys to realize the obsession was not as bad as it once had before? And I guess that's that moment. I'll ask both of you, how long before you realize the obsession lifted?
See, I had a different experience. I'll go really quick because people know my story. But having my daughter say, if you want a relationship with me, then you have to stop drinking. And for me, I didn't have that. For some reason, I didn't have any obsession about it. It just went away. I heard those words that said, "Peggy, you're done and you're going to be okay." And I'm very fortunate because I never had a craving or an obsession after that. I was pissed. I was really mad at everybody in my family. I hated every single one of them, but I didn't have the desire to drink. It didn't happen for me.
Todd, how long did it take for you?
I didn't have a lot of physical cravings either. In fact, I remember a couple of times that were, you know, it kind of snuck up on me, and I thought, whoa, that's interesting. Like I was never I didn't feel close to drinking, but I was struck by how the urge sort of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a lot of physical craving, and I really enjoyed the decision of the. There were a lot of nights when I didn't enjoy not drinking, but I enjoyed that it was off the table because that took the whole obsession away. So I didn't have a lot of obsession in terms of, you know, oh my gosh, I want to drink, but I had a lot of conflicting stuff going through my head that I didn't know how to process at the time. And it was, on the one hand, I knew that all these good things were coming from quitting drinking, and I knew what the benefits were. I knew I loved the mornings. I knew I loved how much better I felt. And deep down, I knew it was the right decision for me. But I had all this other stuff going on in my head. Like, I was having issues with my wife, and I had a harder time working through this stuff than I thought we were going to. I was grouchy a lot of times. I didn't,
horrible.
I had these pity parties for myself. Like, this isn't fair. Like, why do I have to do this? And that was all confusing to me, because I was like, I know this is good. Why am I having all these nagging?
Because we can, and that's the beauty of sobriety, is that we have both.
Yeah.
We have conflicting feelings. That's how our brains are wired.
And I had trouble processing that conflict. And that was probably 8 months ish before I started to get through the other side of that. And then by like a year, I remember feeling like that was behind me. But that was there for a while, and I had trouble processing that. I wasn't sure what to do with that stuff.
I had very similar, and I think mine, I'm going to say 8 months to a year. And Peggy, you know this story, but it was, it wasn't the physical. It was a lot of just the fixation. It was, I went to things. I had fun last night, asterisks, but I wasn't drinking. Yeah, the game was great, asterisks. But I wasn't drinking. And I went to, we saw a guy playing guitar, singing on stage, but it was a crowded bar type arena, bar food, restaurant type, but this guy was playing. And I realized at the end of the night that I was laughing and enjoying the evening without the asterisks. It was the first night that I realized I was laughing as hard as I thought, like I used to laugh, that I never thought I would do again. I had that belly laugh, just had a blast. And that was the night when I went, holy crap, this fixation that I had, the asterisk is gone. And it was enough of a taste. I realized this is going to work. And it was that belief, when I realized this miracle of recovery, not just sobriety, is taking place. The ball, it took off.
Yeah.
Because I finally believed. I mean, I knew it. I heard all of you guys talking about it. I knew it was true, but you still, until you actually feel it,
you have to experience it.
Yeah.
And that was the night for me.
And that's what I tell people a lot, like who are thinking about doing something about their alcohol use, but they're scared by forever, which I get, because I was too. I would say, try giving up for a certain amount of time. It doesn't really matter what that time is, but it does need to be longer than a weekend. It needs to be longer than a week, frankly, but you got to give yourself enough time away from it where you get that glimpse that you're talking about, Jeff. And you don't have to see it all at once, one night out, but you got to give yourself a chance to get those glimpses, because those glimpses are what stay with you, and they're what keep you coming back.
Yeah.
And you can't get those unless you're away from it for a certain amount of time, I think.
What I had to let go of was, my fantasy was, okay, you're threatening me. My husband left for a while, and my daughter, told me I needed to do something about my drinking. And so my fantasy was, I'm going to stop drinking, then I'm going to start drinking again, and then I'm going to quit. It was so stupid, because I wanted to be the one.
I was going to say, did you want it to be on your own terms?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I had to get over, not the cravings, not any of that other stuff. It was because I think when you view yourself as being semi-successful, not controlling alcohol, not having a say about alcohol was an obsession for me. And I had to finally let go of that.
The other thing, Todd, what you were saying, it's very, this sucks, poor pitiful me, why me? And it's a very negative thing. and I believed it could happen, but it wasn't. There's a little bit, and you have to do it when you're ready. And I say, put on your personal protective equipment in case you stumble. Make sure you have.
Do I need to leave this conversation?
Huh?
Do I need to leave this conversation?
No, that's like a fall protection vest. Okay. I work on cranes, and if I fall, it keeps me from getting hurt. It's not as your mind is filth. Okay. You disgust me at times. Anyways, Todd, as I was saying, but you have to dabble in scenarios. You have to put yourself in a place to experiment and feel, hey, this can be fun. Because if you just sit in your closet at home, poor pitiful me, you'll never get past that fixation. I had to put myself in the position of going to a social event or going to a game without alcohol, because it was the only way I was going to, step out of the cage and believe that I could do it.
Yeah, I did a lot of those things, ball game, social events, parties that part of me didn't want to do. And some people say, when you're early on, you don't have to go to the event. But I felt like I needed to get it over with, because I knew the worst time was probably the first time. It wasn't going to get worse than that. And so I just needed to get that out of the way, prove to myself that I could do it. And part of me knew that it would get easier from there. Yeah. And that's what I tell people all the time about, like, vacations and travel and golf and all those things that we never, ever could imagine doing without alcohol, that I enjoy more now without alcohol than I did with alcohol.
It's insane.
Again, this is thing number 15, that if you told me 4 years ago you will enjoy going to a football game more without alcohol than you do drink.
I actually watch football with my husband now. Like, before, I would just go, oh, F that. I'm going to go in my closet, take my out of my boots and drink that.
Because that was all you were focused on.
Watching it. But it's improved our relationship, because I lied in the beginning when we first started dating. You said, I'm a football fan. I go, oh, so am I.
But that was all you were. Your focus wasn't on the game, because alcohol stole your focus. It owned your focus.
I actually can see when he points out a play. I can actually see it now. Not all the time, but I can ask intelligent questions about football now. And I'm very impressed with that.
Yeah, it boggles my mind, the amount of things that I, at one point not that long ago, could never imagine enjoying without alcohol, that now I enjoy more.
Hey, what? Todd, I was my show. Okay. No,
not your show.
I picked up the dinner tab the other night. Okay, I earned this. No, I wanted, when I talk to people, I hear stuff for the first time. I don't hear it when it's in here. Did you learn about yourself writing your own book? Did you learn things that you didn't even know until it came out?
Yes, I did. I learned a lot. I mean, there were a couple of times where I'd start to go down a road and I think, I don't know if I want to go down that road. I don't know if I want to drill into that. And that was always a signal to me that I did need to go down that road.
Interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of it's been focused on my dad. My dad gave up drinking 23 years ago, and I hadn't really explored this with him, which is kind of surprising, because we're very similar personalities, very similar drinking habits. And I've dug into a lot about his drinking and how that affected me growing up, and him quitting and how that affected me. When he quit, even though I was nowhere, I wasn't even in the same zip code of thinking about quitting, but there was a very small voice in my head that I didn't let stick around very long. But I had a fleeting thought when he quit of, oh shit, I'm going to have to quit someday, because I'm turning into my dad. as we on this Zoom, I'm turning into my dad. And I knew, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to do it someday, aren't I? And then I shoved it to the back. But yeah, one of the best, things I've enjoyed the most about writing this is it forces you to go back and take a look at things you've never really looked at.
Yeah.
And some of them make you squirm, and others make you feel like there's a light bulb going off, over your head. But
some make you laugh your ass off, right?
Some
are so funny. I mean, it's so funny. Robbie Shaw, who has champagne problems, he interviewed Mark Manson, but you really have to listen to that podcast, because Robbie talks about himself and the fact that he talks about his relationship with his dad, who also drank. It's really profound. It's so
really? Okay.
So good. It might even be something you refer to in your book. It's that good.
Okay.
Yeah. So what does, if you don't mind, what does Beth think about your wife? Think about you writing this book?
She doesn't understand why anyone would ever write a book like this. Because you know what it's like. You bear it all. There's not much you leave, uncovered. And that's completely and I don't mind doing that. I don't have much shame left about any of my stories. I don't. Yeah, I can laugh about most of them. I like hearing those stories from other people, so it doesn't bother me at all. But she's not like that. She would never put that stuff out there to the world. So she doesn't totally understand that, but she does know how much I've always enjoyed writing, and she knows that that's one of my outlets.
What does she like about your sober?
What's that?
What does she like about your sober self?
I think she likes the calmness. She talks a lot about how calmer I am, and me and the kids, my relationship with my kids is, it's just more peaceful. I mean, you know how teenagers are. If you want to, you could have a WTF moment with them maybe 3 times a day that would blow up into a fight with just what teenagers say and do. And those don't really they don't happen anymore. Because I'm not as reactive, and I'm just calmer. I just have more peace.
Does she have fears of does she have fears about the book?
I don't know. There are some places where I've definitely highlighted that I've said, you need to read this before it goes out into the world, and make sure you're comfortable with it. I don't want to put anything out there that she's going to have.
Oh, of course.
That she doesn't want out there. So I don't know. I will find out and report back, Jeff.
Peggy or Todd, I get people text me comments to ask our guests, and I just want to read one that I got. Tell Peggy we love her new hairstyle. We're trying to.
There you go.
We're trying to solve, issues here, work through problems.
It's like we're invisible, Jeff.
Exactly. I think
I have a good hairstylist. She's also my therapist. Oh, so now you're making it about you.
No, this is obviously how this is supposed to be the rest of the show. It's just you, and then there's us.
It's a little short for me, so thank you, whoever brought that up. I feel like maybe I have shorter hair than my husband right now.
Todd, someone did ask, what is your favorite NA beer?
Oh, it's probably the Lagunitas NA IPA.
I just bought that. It's in my
refrigerator. Have you had it?
I just bought it.
I used to drink the real Lagunitas IPA a lot. And I think it tastes great.
Did you have any issues? Was it at all? Because I'm not sold. I love a good NA, but I won't do it alone because I don't like why I have wanted. I shouldn't want to drink alone on I don't know. It's just my thing. So I think some people, it's got to be your own deal. But did you have any issues with it or concerns for yourself?
No, not really. Although I will say there were a couple times early on where I felt myself going to get one in a very familiar pattern. And I was aware enough to like stop myself and say, okay, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to stay in the same pattern, even if it's an NA beer versus a real beer. I wanted to break patterns and habits. And so there were a couple of times where I noticed that and said, all right, I'm not gonna go get one right now. But other than that, no, I haven't noticed anything. Although I have been drinking them less and less. I think I don't know if that's means anything or if it's on purpose or just coincidence. But it seems like I have not been drinking them as much lately as in the past. Now, I will say I did have a chance I was at a bar in Minneapolis, and they had the biggest like NA selection of beer and liquor that I'd ever seen in a bar. I loved it. And I was going to order a mock gin and tonic. Mm-hmm. And I didn't because I wasn't sure. I was like, that seemed, I don't know why. Something stopped me. I didn't do it. And I've never had one. So I think that's probably my version of your drinking them alone, Jeff. So I get it. Because I used to love gin and tonics. So for whatever reason.
Mine was last year around Thanksgiving, and I was home alone, and I had some NAs in, and I started to grab, and I thought, I'm having a crappy day, and I'm grabbing this for the wrong reason. Even though I know that it was NA, I was maybe hoping that my mind would somehow fall for the smell and the taste and all that, and somehow provide me relief for what I was. And I said, "Now, wrong reason."
Yeah.
Give us a little preview of your book because we have about 7-8 more minutes, and when you hope to get it out, and anything you want us to know.
So I just recently set a deadline for myself of October 20th of this year because that's my 4-year sober anniversary.
Awesome.
And I just finally decided I'm getting this damn thing done. I've been working on it for a while now, but kind of in between, my day job and everything else. And so it's taken a while, and I've finally decided to give this some priority to see this through and finish it. So that's my goal. I read so much Quit Lit myself when I was early on, and it was so helpful to me. I mean, when I started reading books, I didn't know anyone else who had quit drinking besides my dad. Certainly didn't know anyone in my social circle.
Right.
Felt like I was on an island. And once I started reading these books, I started discovering I wasn't on an island. There's a lot of people out there who have similar issues as I did. And I heard over and over and over again, this was the best decision I ever made. And I have this sober life now that I love so much. And I can't imagine going back. And, I was a little bit skeptical. I wasn't sure if I should buy into all that. And I was a little leery of that, but you hear it enough times and you can't help but start to believe some of it. And it was so helpful for me early on that when I got to a year, I decided I wanted to write something myself that could hopefully help one person in the manner that all the books helped me. So it's mostly just kind of a story of my drinking, kind of how I drank, why I drank, what kind of drinker was I, and hopefully it will. Part of the message I want to be is you don't have to be putting your car in a ditch and getting arrested
Right.
every weekend to have an issue with alcohol, or you don't need, none of that stuff needs to happen for you to give it up. And even if everything on the outside looks like it's going great, you could still be struggling with alcohol, and you could still need to do something about it. Because that kept me stuck for a long time, because I was like, people like me don't need to quit drinking.
Right.
That's not who, I'm not one of those.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want people to let them know that everyone could be one of those. It doesn't
I'm gonna
matter.
go out on a limb here too, though, is that, and I'll probably, we'll probably get a lot of hate mail, but I don't think there's a lot of sobriety books written by men, and I do think that is I told you when you decided to do this how beneficial I think it's going to be. Women and men drink different. They drink for different reasons. And even though we do have some commonalities, that's great, but it's not the same. And I just think the world needs your book. So,
well, thank you. I have a chapter on kind of the male perspective, and I think you're right, Peggy. I don't think men are as good or as proactive about going out and finding and creating support like women are. And so, and that just fuels the cycle of, nobody understands. It's part of it was so wrapped up in my identity, as a male. And I'm sure females feel like that too, but I really felt like if I give up drinking, you're chopping off a piece of my identity.
totally.
I'm going to be less of a man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's scary. That's nobody wants to do something that's going to make them feel like that.
Well, and Jeff just had that experience with, now that everybody's going to know, but, with his new boss who, thought, wow, you don't drink, you must have two heads.
Yeah.
It was very much quitting was I failed, and quitting, taking control of with alcohol took a ton of strength. It takes a lot. It's something I'm damn proud of. But at the time, I looked at that, I'm a failure. I failed because I'm having to quit. And I was embarrassed about it. Everything negative, And now I look back and go, Kelly, yeah, I'm proud as hell for what I did.
Yeah.
Not many people are where we are.
No. I always tell people, that having issues with alcohol is the easy part. A lot of people have issues with alcohol. The hard part is doing something about it, because not a lot of people decide to do something about it. And that's the hard part.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons I found myself communicating and connecting more with women when I first started talking about this stuff is, one, because there were just more women out there, but two, I felt a little safer that I wasn't going to get that reaction that you got.
That makes so much sense.
100%.
Yeah, that worried me. I felt that. I remember being at social settings, or and you know how awkward that can be when you're early on. I feel safer walking up to a table of women than I would guys, because I thought the guys were gonna judge me, they were gonna make fun of me, they were gonna think less of me, and I didn't want to. I just felt like I wasn't gonna have to deal with any of that with women.
Wow, that's such a good point. That's huge.
Yeah, and so I do think, to your point, Peggy, I think there's a lot of room out there for males to talk about this, or feel like it's okay to talk about it.
Well, and even my own husband, who blamed me for my drinking problem, took it from William Porter. William Porter's Alcohol Explained changed the way he even looked at alcohol. And so, and I think it took that, Alan Carr, Craig Beck, some of the men authors around drinking really helps, because we don't have the same experience at all. And then on top of that, if you're, married to a person that leaves a half a glass of red wine in Hawaii, you know, you're in Hawaii and he orders a $20 glass of wine, he leaves half of it, and I throw a fit in the restaurant. Like, how the hell do you do that?
What's that about?
Go back and drink the rest of that damn thing. It costs $20. And
It's
people
just
were
a
laughing.
disgrace. It's embarrassing.
It
Like,
doesn't
that
seem
is so
possible.
embarrassing.
Hey,
No.
want to thank Sheila because Sheila commented that Todd's hair looks nice too. So yes, Sheila, I'm
Thank you,
following
Sheila.
your talent. Yes, thank you, Sheila, for pointing that out. Full
Love
head of
you,
hair, full
Sheila.
head of hair. Huh?
All right.
And Todd did tell me it's going to be a surprise, but unlike Peggy's book, he is going to put pictures in this one.
I doubt it. Not even for you.
I'll put one in your copy, Jeff.
Thank you.
It'll be a picture of Todd.
Yeah, there you go.
Me and my hair.
But
So the book is hopefully potentially going to be called Above the Bar. Legal
Maybe.
Love
How
it.
about that?
How about a contest?
You know what? I need some help. I was telling someone the other day, I'm not a creative type. And I said, what I need to sit down and I need to tell someone, like, this is why I'm writing this book and this is what I want to convey with it. Now, can you condense that down to a 5-word title?
There she is. Take it, getting back to
I'm
zero.
I'm just thinking about all of it.
Everything that I did, all of my stuff was Peggy's ideas.
Was it? Well,
Yeah, 100%.
I'll take all the help I can get. What I really want to get across to people is, because this still boggles my mind, is that the world that's out there and the way of living that's out there is so much better. And I was as skeptical as the next person that was going to be the case. I didn't believe it. And you can tell them, Peggy can tell them, it's true. And I think the more people see that message, everyone's going to do with it what they will. But for me, it helped hearing that message.
Yeah. I love it. Well, that went by in 5 minutes.
Hey, I just thanks for being here. And like I don't know if you heard the beginning, but I got to see Peggy this week and have dinner with her, which is always on a trip back to Sacramento. We joke and have a lot of fun, but that was just a highlight of the week.
That's good. I'm glad you guys got to do that, even though you had to pay, Jeff.
I did. It was you're supposed to do that. I'd like to pay. No, really. No, you go back and forth. And I just said,
The
let me
real
get
story is he was at the order line and he's like, tell me what you want. I didn't have a choice for you to pay. But he told me I could only order off the kids menu.
It had to have an MC at the beginning. If she wants the McPizza or the McPasta. But
well, that was nice. That was nice of you. Jeff.
The McSteak, maybe, but nothing. It's got to have an MC at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Todd. You're the best.
Thank you, guys. I've been looking forward to this all day. I always enjoy.
So book potentially out this fall?
Yes, fall/winter.
Good
Is
deal.
there any way to maybe we'll just have you back in a couple months? But is there any website that people can start following you on?
Not yet, but there will be shortly.
Okay. We'll just have to have you back on for that. So I'm sure it's going to be fun. All right. Love you.
Hey.
Love you too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Todd.
All right.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.